What's going on, Dustin? How's your week going?
It's going great, man. KC's a beautiful town, city. The weather's good, and things have been going smooth.
Awesome. I guess how excited are you to get back in there? A pretty tough opponent, ranked opponent. So these are the kind of matchups you like, right?
Yeah, for sure. Super excited. Another tough test, man. Azamat Murzakanov, undefeated, ranked behind me and trying to take my ranking and climb that ladder. And I got to make sure I do my job and keep him from doing so. And I continue to climb myself.
He's only had a few fights in the UFC, but he's obviously already made an impact enough to have a number next to his name. What have you kind of taken away from what you've seen of him as a fighter?
You know, the interesting thing, I was supposed to fight him for the Contender Series back in August of 2020. And I don't know with COVID and if he had visa issues or whatnot, that fight never materialized. But he was certainly on my radar, you know, somebody that a prospect I saw myself facing. I think he's a good fighter, man. He's explosive. He's quick. He's powerful, no doubt about it. I think he's had 4 knockouts in a row. I got to use my reach, keep him at bay, do a good job of setting the pace, which I do in my fights. I usually control the pace of my fights, keep him at my range. And, it's going to be a tough challenge, but I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm excited to get the opportunity to take that 0 away from him.
And do you expect him to keep that same sort of like aggressive fighting style? Like you said, he's kind of got a few knockouts to his name, but fighting a guy like you with your kickboxing background, do you think he'll try to switch it up at all?
No, I think he's going to come at me strong. I think that's the type of fighter he is. You can see it in his eyes. He's a dog, man. He's going to bring the fight. Obviously, I do the same thing, and we're in it for the long haul, man. We're going to set that cage on fire and see who hops out first.
Absolutely. And the last time we saw you fight, it was a close fight, split decision defeat. When you went back and watched it, like, were you still pretty confident? I think a lot of people thought you won, but were you pretty confident once you saw it again, too?
Yeah, I still think I won, man. I think I controlled the pace of that fight. I outstruck him. He did land some big shots, but I was never rocked. You know, I don't know how you scored damage in that fight. You know, is damaged because I got a black eye, and is that how we're measuring how the power of the punches, or you doing damage by I outstruck them by 70-some strikes, and those add up more than the big punches? I don't know. And that's nothing, no takeaway from Khalil, man. That was a tough fight. He's a tough warrior, tough competitor. I still think I did enough to win, and I think he thinks that too. You know, we talked after the fight. You know, I looked him right in the eyes. He felt that he was defeated. I felt like I had won, and I think we were both shocked when the decision was read. But, you know, you got to let bygones be bygones, keep that in the past, and continue moving forward.
Judging's always been a hot topic, but I think in the last year and a half, it's definitely been pushed towards the forefront of a lot of discussions. As a fighter, what do you kind of tack up like a scenario that you were just in? Like, what can go better? Is it like the judges understanding the scoring, or is it you guys understanding the scoring? Or?
You know, I think to help that problem is you have the judges score the fight, but they don't sit cage side. They sit in a boxed room with no sound, no audio, no commentators, no coaches, no crowd influence, and they judge the fight on a screen with no sound. And I think that would be a solution to the problem, you know, or at least help it, because I think they're persuaded. You know, in the Khalil fight, for instance, he lands a big shot and you hear the crowd, whoa. And again, while I'm never rocked, he never visibly rocked me. I was never shaken. It was never a devastating blow, but I think those judges are persuaded by the crowd and the announcers. So that would be my first recommendation. Put them in a box back behind closed doors in a silent room, and then see how that works.
Thanks.
With that, speaking of that same fight, man, what were the emotions like immediately after that fight, man? Like, you get back to the locker room, obviously your coaches are just, like, you won that fight, you think you won that fight. Like, what were the emotions like, and how do you get over something like that?
I was super disappointed, man. That one really did hurt. You know, the biggest thing is it ruined my streak. I had an awesome streak going that, was taken away from me, and by the judges sitting ringside. I feel like I did not lose that fight. It took away a lot of momentum, and I just hate for the streak to come to an end that way. You know, I would have rather been knocked out cold or finished decisively than have it be a controversial decision ending like that. But, I was licking my wounds. I went on an elk hunt the week after that, and I was able to be successful on that hunt, bring some meat home to the family. So that helped to get by a little bit easier. And of course, it's been 6 months since that fight, so I've had some time to, just reflect and move on. Like I said earlier, you can't dwell on that kind of stuff, or there's no way for me to continue moving forward if I'm still caught up on that fight. So I put it in the past, man. I just put one foot in front of the other, like I always do, and got ready for the next matchup.
You're fighting with a bunch of teammates on this card. Do you like that? And also, are you the type of fighter that gets nervous while watching your teammates fight?
I do like it. I think it's super cool. On a regional scene, you fight with a bunch of teammates. That's pretty common, but to be able to do that at the biggest stage, in the biggest organization in the world, in the UFC, have 4 fighters on the same card, that's really cool. It's also super cool that I'm the last one fighting, because to answer that question, I love watching my teammates fight. I love watching the fights anyway, because as you're sitting back there watching, you're getting inspired, right? You're getting fired up, and then you just can't wait to go out there and do what you do and put on even a better show than what you've been seeing. So to fight last of my teammates is going to be super cool, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Former opponent of yours, Alex Pereira, lost this past weekend. What were your thoughts on that fight?
Yeah, I thought Adesanya did a great job, man. He finally got that victory over a very tough Pereira. People don't realize how good of a striker that guy is, and he's super quick and obviously super powerful. To be able to lock horns with a guy like that, I know from experience. But it was cool to see Adesanya get that victory, kind of, get that off of his back and move on, man. And I would like to see Pereira. See how he stacks up against the rest of the division. I know there's some talk of him going up to light heavyweight, but we haven't heard that from him, and I feel like middleweight's his home, and maybe he does go up to light heavyweight. But it was a great fight, great showing by both guys, and I was happy for Adesanya.
Yeah, so that's like most people believe he's coming up to light heavyweight. Would you like to fight him if he makes them?
If it makes sense. If he came up, I definitely try to avenge that loss. If people have asked me in the past, like, would you fight him if he goes to 205? I'm like, man, that's a silly question. Of course I would. I fought the best in the world, and I'm here to be one of the best in the world. So whatever it takes to claim that stake, and I'll do it.
You started your career in MMA, and then you went kickboxing, went back to MMA. Seeing his rise, right? Like, were you surprised at how, just the way he adapted? And I mean, obviously he got kind of rushed to the title because of the storyline, but were you surprised at how good he became so fast?
No, I wasn't surprised at all, man. I know the level of competitor that he is, the level of fighter he is. He's the cream of the crop, one of the best, most fierce competitors in the world, and one of the best fighters in the world. And while I do believe there are many people in that division that would pose a threat to him or even beat him, I still think he's one of the best, especially in terms of striking. I think there's grapplers that will be able to get him down and control him and beat him that way. But if you're talking striking, man, just timing's everything. It played out perfect for him. Adesanya was there. He came in, got the knockouts he needed to get, and fast track to the title shot, which was worthy in my opinion. But I do think there's some guys out there that can give him troubles in the grappling department.
How nice was it to have Anthony Smith back as a training partner?
Super cool, man. I love Anthony. It's good that he's back around, and he's just a huge addition to the team. He's a huge help for me. A guy that's been there, been through it to get to it, like myself, and just brings a lot of skill and a lot of experience to the training room, and it's fun training with him.
Thanks, man.
Dustin, just one quick one for me. With what happened with the last fight, do you feel a little bit more pressure or more urgency heading into this fight to not leave it up to the judges after being on the wrong end of a really close decision?
Yeah, I don't really feel the pressure or urgency. I mean, I try to finish every fight. I think everybody does. When you ask that question, and, I don't think there's ever a fighter that's like, man, I'm going to go in there and just win by decision. I do my best to try to put them out. These guys are tough, man. You get into the top 15, everybody's super tough. And, of course, I want to finish, and I'm going to be looking for the finish, and that's ideally what I would love to win by, and I'm hoping to do that on Saturday.